Clap. Hey, what's up, everybody? Jesse, Jared, this is Bananas Unpeeled. Again, shout out to our fans in Michigan, all 9 of you now that are watching and listening to our podcast. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Thanks for listening to the podcast. This is Bananas Unpeeled. This is behind the scenes of everything that happens with the Savannah Bananas. Last episode, we went behind the music with our guy Shark, had tons of sound bites, we had the sing-offs, ridiculous episode. If you didn't see it, you gotta go watch it, you gotta go listen to it. This show, however, we did something totally, really out of the ordinary, which I guess is the theme of pretty much everything we do. Out of the ordinary this summer, we are talking about the undercover fan experience that every single one of our staff people had. And it is going to be a really, really fun episode where we show you that we actually became fans for a game and all the craziness that happened while we were fans for one game. How are you feeling? What are you excited about for this episode?
Pumped to be back. Yes, the undercover fan. The yellow tux came off for a game. I know your blue polo came off for a game. And it's something that we pride ourselves. Obviously, the name of the company, Fans First Entertainment, and Fans First Entertain Always. And if we really want to deliver the best experience for our fans, we have to get in their shoes. We have to literally get in their shoes. And this is something we rolled out last season, and it was eye-opening.
Yes.
And it's something that I believe every company should do. Is every sports team 5,000,000%.
Right.
I mean, you can't expect to deliver a great experience for your fans unless you know what it is to stand in line, to come through the gates, to struggle finding a seat, to watch the show. You need to see it from all different perspectives, not just from a staff member.
Yeah.
And so we did it, and not only myself, you, our entire front office, our interns, and I'll tell you, it's a game changer, and I think everyone should be doing it because that's how you deliver the best experience. You get in the customer's shoes, and then you actually take action and say, you know what? This wasn't great, or this was amazing. We should do more of that. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I'll never forget that night. I know you won't either, and I think it's a great thing to talk about because a lot of fans didn't know we did this.
Yeah, so this episode, obviously, if you're a fan, you're going to hear like, oh my gosh, these are the experiences that I... Sorry, I'm choking up here.
Get emotional.
Forgive me. Yeah. Cut that. If you're a fan, you're thinking, oh my gosh, these are the experiences that I experienced. These are some things that we're seeing. And so we're the ones that are now going in there saying like, all right, we're seeing it, we're feeling it, we're a part of it. And if you're a business owner, if you're someone who is running a small business or running a sports team or whatever, you're like, oh my goodness, is this something that we need to do? And obviously there's a TV issue about this, Undercover Boss, and that's kind of where the premise came from. But for us, it was like, we need to figure out what it's like for our fans to go to a game. We get so caught up in putting on the show, putting on the experience. Are the hot dogs cooked right? You know, are we doing things operationally? But are we doing things for the fans? Are we doing things fans first?
And let me go into that because the reality is so many businesses, they survey their fans.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Surveys are like, oh, we did surveys of our fans. Most of them are biased.
Yes.
If you're filling out a survey, you're either maybe you're going to win something.
Right. You're paying them to do it or whatever.
Yes. Or you're going to try to be extra nice or, you go out of your way to say something negative, but that's not even done through a survey.
Right.
We don't survey our fans, but what we do is we get in their shoes.
Right.
And because that's when we can see. I mean, I was actually sitting next to fans and asking them, hey, what do you like about this? Yep. And I wasn't in the yellow tux and just having a conversation. That's the real experience.
Yep.
And I think we all need to have real experiences with our customers, with our fans, to be able to deliver even a better experience the next time.
Yep, so that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to talk about our experiences. We have some funny stories. We have some ridiculous notes. And then we're really going to talk about, all right, how do we do this again next year? Like, what are we going to implement? What are we going to change? What are some things that people can look forward to? And maybe we actually get some fans involved in this as well. So this show is sponsored by Johnny's Chicken and Waffles. Use your Bananas code, BANANAS, for 10% off at Johnny's Chicken and Waffles. Your your undercover experience. Who'd you go, like, let's take a step back. Why are we doing this? And like, explain to the people the thought process of what you were going into your undercover experience. Like, what was it like as you were thinking about going into it? What were you looking for? Give me that first initial experience that you were looking to go into.
Well, remember before the season, we met as a staff and we said, all right, guys, we're going to do this. And all that we ask is that you go through it exactly like a fan.
Yep.
You go to the different stands, you come in, you park like everyone else, and then you give a full report at the end of the night. And I was fortunate. I went 3/4 of the way through the season.
Yep.
I was supposed to go earlier, but my night got rained out.
Classic.
So I showed up ready to go, and then we're in the middle of like a rain out decision. So I'm in my street clothes, like trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm like, but what I did notice on that night,
fans do not get to decide that.
Yeah, they don't get to decide. Like, fan, that'd be interesting. They would always say, play, forget it, play the game. But I remember that night, I didn't get to experience, but I experienced, because we called the game early.
Yep.
But I did notice, I went into all the bathrooms, I was like, our bathrooms were pretty clean. And I think that is such an important thing about the bathrooms, which we're working on in the 1926 ballpark. But even on that night, I didn't get the whole experience, but I got to go to the bathrooms, which we never go into the regular bathrooms a lot of the times. Like we have our own in the office. So I saw that, and then I was ready for my rescheduled Undercover fan, which ended up being our famous kilts night. The St. Patrick's Day celebration, which was so tough for me not to be a part of. You know, we've dreamed up this idea of having players wear kilts, and I couldn't be there to as an actual person in charge of it. I went as a fan.
Because even the first kilt night was rained out. So then this was a rescheduled night of a rescheduled, bringing the kilts back, and then you got to come on that night.
But what was really cool, and I think a lot of this, when you're going undercover, you don't necessarily want to go by yourself. Because very few fans come by themselves. They're coming with a spouse, significant other, friends. They're coming part of a group. So we make sure that when we schedule our staff to go, they're going with someone. And so I was so fortunate. My parents flew down from Massachusetts. So my dad was there, and my stepmother, and Emily, and Maverick. And so we had the whole experience. And it was amazing. So we showed up, and I remember showing up around 6 o'clock, and we parked, where everyone else parked. And the first thing I noticed was that the grass hadn't been mowed. And I think this is so important for every business to look at. It's the attention to detail. And yes, you and I and our staff is looking with much more finer detail than everyone else. But the grass wasn't mowed. And I was like, we talk about this first impression. I believe the first impression is so important. And the first thing I was like, the grass isn't mowed. And if you get rain, which it was a little wet that night as well, all of a sudden there's mud and dirt. And I'm like, that's not a great experience. So then I came in later because I was around the ballpark. And I noticed that we usually have the players out signing autographs and passing out programs. Well, it was right before the game. So the players couldn't be there. So who greeted me? Luckily, Jared was there. Jared was the first person to greet me. Wearing a kilt. And I think that's so important that every business owner, a manager, leader should be out in front, should be greeting the customers as they come in. So that was a really cool touch. But then the players weren't there. And then the band, which is normally there, it was right before the game. So it's so important for us. I didn't realize that. Like, the times change. A fan that comes in at 5:36, 6:37, it's a different experience.
And so I think it's interesting as people who are trying to put on this experience, we know it's like a theatrical experience. The customer, if they're coming for the first time, they probably don't know that players are supposed to be out there. So they're just entering the gates. Now, fans that are coming to multiple games, obviously they know the kind of rhyme or reason to how we do things. But as people who are trying to put these experiences on, like, light bulbs are going off in our head, like, oh my gosh, this is missing, this is off, this is different. Like, where are the things going on? And as the casual fan, it's like, they're just coming for a great experience. But we have to put so much pride into that attention to detail that you mentioned that no thing goes unnoticed. I think Disney talked about this when they were painting some of their fountains. They would paint them 24 karat gold or whatever, and know that no customer would ever know that they were painted with this amazing gold, but they knew. And that was the most important thing for them, is they had that internal pride, and it's that same internal pride that we want to have every single touch point that we create.
Well, the customer's expectations are increasing every single day. I mean, I was telling you the other day, I was on a plane, I was on a flight, and all of a sudden the TV wasn't working. So the person started complaining and was like, hey, my TV's not working. I'm like, we're on a flying tube in the air. And 5 years ago, you would have never imagined watching TV. But that's where our expectations are going. And as leaders of a team, an operation, a sports team, a business, your expectations need to be at the top. And so our expectations are here. So I was expecting the whole dog and pony show walking in.
The thing that you had always imagined.
But I didn't get it. So I noticed, I was like, wow. So I started taking notes. I was like, we got to have that same unbelievable wow experience for everyone when they walk in at 5:30 or 7. And so those are the things that we started thinking about. So I walk in and, fun detail, I never eat much of our food. So the first thing, because I mean, again, we're around it all the time.
We've eaten lunch, we've eaten snacks during the daytime. We'll eat it at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yes, we'll have it at 10 o'clock,
hot dog.
but not when it's like ready. And we're going through, just so everyone knows, our all-you-can-eat plan. I mean, 10,000 pieces of meat a night. And so I wanted to see how it was. So I went through the all-you-can-eat line. There was no line to take care of it, and grabbed a burger, and I went and grabbed a seat. And I think this is really interesting. Not only should you be in your customer's shoes, but you should take an experience at every part of where they could have an experience. And what I mean by that is, like, I sat in the grandstand, I sat in the middle bleachers, I stood near the gate, and everywhere, the perspective, what people are saying, how are you feeling? I think Yogi Berra said it best, you could observe a lot just by watching. And that's what I was doing. So I was watching. So I literally went and started watching the experience. And just so everyone knows, I was wearing sunglasses, which I never wear sunglasses.
And like a 9-line shirt or something.
Yes, I was wearing a dark shirt and shorts, sunglasses on a night, which is just ridiculous. And I had like a mesh hat, which I never wear.
No, not at all.
But still, here's the funny, people still knew, they still would be like, is that Jesse? Like I hear people talking, that's Jesse. I'm like, no, it's not Jesse. And just keep walking.
Did he quit? Did he get fired?
Well, what's happening? Where's the yellow tux guy? So anyways, I mean, my experience I went through, I ended up taking 7 pages of notes.
Yeah.
7 pages of notes. And, details like, Reginald, and I think you'll talk about that too. Reginald, who does all the trash, just watch him go around the ballpark with this big smile. And I was observing so much, not just the game and the show, but how our fans interact with our staff and how our staff interacts with them.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it was eye-opening. And I think by the end, we had every staff member 30 or 40 pages of notes of changes and adjustments we're going to make by just going through this experience.
Yep.
And I think what's really great is everyone who does it gets a sense of pride in what they're doing, because most of us, we're working hard, we're going all night, and then we get to see a little bit of it, but to sit there with the fans and watch them sing, watch them dance, watch them cheer, watch them just smile, you're like, we put this on for a living. This is what we do. And I think that's what I was so proud of. Not only did I get to feel that, but everyone in the staff got to feel that, and that's why I believe every company in the world should do it.
Yeah, so, that first impression, I think, is so ridiculous. And we talk about that. You talked about the grass. You talked about the parking. And so one of the things we asked our fans to do, or one of the things we asked our staff to do, is leave the ballpark at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and then come back, because our gates open at 5:30, show starts at 7 o'clock. And so literally leave the ballpark. So what I did, I drove all the way home, and then I kind of got ready and then came back to the ballpark like I had left work and was getting ready to come to the game. And so I pulled in and I parked behind the football fields over here. And when I got out of my car, I got here early, so a little bit different than you got here. I got here early around 5:45, and I opened my car door and I heard the DJ. We had, the DJ on the plaza. You could hear it all the way behind the football field. And, I started feeling like, oh, my goodness, I'm coming to something. And I don't think we had done the DJ. I came later in the season, so we had not had the DJ up there originally. We had a kind of a pregame show going on. And so we implemented the DJ later in the season. When I got out of the car and heard this DJ, speakers bumping, it was like, I am coming to something special. And then at the end of the night, I got to leave. And I know a lot of our fans experience this. Some of them don't because they leave early. At the end of the night, and again, my family was there, and I'll get into that in a second, but we got on the plaza, and the band was playing, the players were out there, there's autographs. I felt myself wanting to dance, my family was starting to dance, because people didn't want to leave. And I was like, man, if we could get every single one of our fans to experience this, at 9 o'clock or 9:30 or 10 o'clock, how could we get every single person to experience this? Because from start to finish, there was music, excitement, enthusiasm, and I was like you mentioned, we get so caught up in trying to put this on that we don't realize how much the fans get to experience. So that was cool for me. But yes, getting to come with your family was a really, really special moment. So I don't know if you want to share some things that you got to hear your family say, or your dad notice, or people like that, where it's now you're getting feedback from not just yourself, but the people you're coming with.
My dad is a big baseball guy, and as I've shared before, my father bought a baseball facility up in Massachusetts so I could practice.
And he was our first review on this show.
First endorsement. I love you, Dad. And he literally did everything for me for baseball. So he's always been the baseball guy, where I'm always kind of become the circus guy.
That's right.
And so he just loves really watching the game, and he enjoys the circus because of the 4,000 fans.
Right.
And that game was really special because we were playing in kilts. No one would ever imagine us to win a game.
Forgetting that.
We're playing in kilts. No one would ever imagine us to win a game.
Yes.
And we're playing Make and Bacon, who are, want to beat us more than anybody.
We've played them 57 times during that season.
They just want to kill us. And the fact, no team wants to lose to a team, and theoretically, skirts.
No.
So the Make and Bacon's we can't lose this game. And we weren't playing that well because we're playing in kilts. It was a challenge. And it got to be 3-1 in the 9th inning. And my dad's like, hey, they still played pretty well. And we're standing over against the fence watching. And first guy base hit, next guy base hit, next guy base hit. My dad's like, this could be amazing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Leroy hits that chopper, and the pitcher comes to grab it, throws the ball away. All 3 runs score.
Yep.
And my dad is jumping up and down. All right. I feel like a kid at a candy store. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. What? I see Tyler Gillum running with number 1. We just won the World Series. All right.
This is just a regular season game in July.
Season game, but the players are celebrating. Me and my dad are we feel like we just watched the biggest win ever. And I'll tell you, I've had so many memories with my dad on the field as a coach and a player, but being there as a fan with him, I mean, we were speechless.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to run on the field and celebrate because I was a fan.
Yeah.
But to be there as a fan and watch the 1,000 fans or whoever was still there celebrating, and my dad and I, we were like, wow. He goes, I can't believe I just saw it. And that put everything in perspective, because the reality is we put on a show, but when the team comes together and puts on a show themselves and plays well and we win like that, there's nothing better. And that's putting everything together. And that to have that with my dad, it was really special.
Do you feel like after that experience, when you put the yellow tux back on and you got back into work mode, did you feel that you started becoming more of a fan while you were working? Because I feel like I noticed you later in the season. You were in the crowd, fist pumping, like had the microphone, cheering with fans. Like, did that give you a little bit of a different perspective as you started working?
My two favorite moments every night is, going through the crowd when we're rallying and I'm high-fiving and celebrating and get in the crowd like this. I feel like I'm a hype man, but I'm like the biggest fan.
Yeah.
So I'm going through there and seeing that from that perspective helped. I mean, every night I'll run through the crowd trying to get them going. And I believe we have the best home field advantage. 4,000 fans like that.
I don't want to get into the records at this point, but it's stupid.
So going through like that. And then what was great, after we had that big walk-off win in the kilts, and I'm in my, incognito clothes.
Right.
I went out to the plaza, just like you said, and it was like a Mardi Gras party. And what I did is I started just having fun, and I was like, I gotta film this. So I turned my phone on and started filming. I was like, literally, fans dancing with the band, the players celebrating, wearing the kilts, high-fiving, pictures everywhere. And it's like, it's really special what we do, and then I got to see it from that side.
Wow.
Everyone should experience it. And then, to kind of take this to the next level, what I started thinking about after that is we have them for those 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it is.
Right.
And then they leave and they go out in the car. And I believe a last impression leaves a lasting impression. We do a great job with the band, the s'mores, the players. It's a Mardi Gras celebration. They leave. But then what happens? And I thought about this before. We were talking. Matt Powell, our ticket experience coordinator, said, how great would it be if we set up playlists for fans as they come to the ballpark? Because as you mentioned, you went home. You went home and you get ready. So you may work all day. You have this whole day. You're working, and it's like, I got to get my mindset to go to a game.
Wow.
What if we as business owners and companies don't just think about the time they're with us, but think about the time as they're getting ready to be with us.
Lead up, right.
And so the idea of now this year, could we have playlists from the players, from Shark, from our staff that say, hey, this is the pregame Bananas playlist. Put this in 30 minutes before you come to the game.
Sync it up to your Bluetooth, whatever.
100%. So as you're pulling up, you're hearing this pump up fun music. Then all of a sudden you get out, you hear the DJ, you hear the band. I mean, that's what we can do. What if we had victory celebration playlists after the game? So hey, as you're getting in your car, the game is not over. The show's not over.
Right.
And I think that is taking the experience to another level.
Wow.
And people need to think not just about when they have you in your store, but the before and the after. And I think that's what Undercover Fan is going to take it to the next level.
Right.
And I am so pumped to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I that gets me pumped. Like and I'll never forget when I went to I was at the World Series in Kansas City, and the just 100% hype around that game. It was on the radio. People were talking about it. People wearing their gear. Like, could we create that lead-up experience? Obviously, we're not the World Series. We're not the Super Bowl, but we feel like we provide the best experience for those 4,000 people showing up. How do we give them more than just what they did at that game? How do we transcend that experience?
Well, what's the best part? If people talk about college football, I bet you if you did a poll on college football, what's your favorite part about college football? It's the tailgating. And it's because that's part of the experience. They're actually not watching the game.
Yeah.
So how do we get into make it a great experience before, great experience after that? When you're coming home, you're like, and the next morning you're like, wow, the game was amazing, but the before, the after was legendary.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we want to take it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think every single person in the sports industry or whatever business should look at mapping that whole experience out.
That's so cool. We're going to take a break. We're going to get into the idea box. And this always comes out super crazy, super awkward. I apologize in advance
We've had some
for
classics,
any
though.
missteps that I might say while I do this. So a few ideas here. First one, fans singing karaoke for player entrance songs. What? No way.
So you get the whole, all right, listen, think about all the fans singing the songs for the players when they're coming up. It's karaoke.
Karaoke is so awkward and terrible. I cannot imagine what that would be like. You get some person up there that's gonna sing
Oh, I'm thinking 4,000 fans. I'm not thinking.
Oh,
So
I thought one person
So you're thinking one person sing all I do is win, win, win.
when
No.
I taste tequila.
Yeah. No,
Right.
the idea is 4,000 fans. They sing the song as the player comes up. If I'm a hitter and I'm coming up, hearing 4,000 fans singing my song, that would fire me up. If it was one awkward person on the field singing my song, that would be really uncomfortable.
I know. We had Shark on last episode. I know he does a lot of karaoke's around bars and all that stuff, and he always posts these videos of like these random people just singing these terrible karaoke songs. That was what was going on in my head. All right, coaches and players serving food in the concession stands. I think we've actually had, crazy story, Stevie Powers played for us for like 2 games. He was an employee for us and worked in the concession stand, and then actually we signed him to become a player. I think we've actually done that a few times where we've had like local baseball players working for us. We find out they can play baseball, and they get signed.
He was flipping burgers, serving fans, and then he was pitching 2 nights later, which is awesome. We've had another player who was a concession stand and then ended up becoming a professional player as well. But the idea is, imagine during the game, you have the coach, all right? The coach is taking the order. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I'd like a burger, 2 fries, and 2 sodas. And he goes back to the player, and he gives the signal, all right, this. And the player goes, gotcha, coach. And then the burger throws it out and delivers it. I think there's going to be cool experience for the fans to come up and it's like, is this the head coach serving me food? Yeah. So I think it'd be a good idea.
That's funny. Last one. This is definitely your dream. I guess kilts were a dream for you, but Michael Jackson night. Everyone dresses Michael Jackson, and players are only allowed to wear 1 batting glove. I don't know if it's left or right hand, but 1 batting glove for the entire game.
Huge Michael Jackson fan.
Michael Jackson.
Loved MJ. You can actually find a video on YouTube of me dancing the moonwalk. But that's a whole other story. The idea of the players wearing like the white dress shirt, the white shirt, and then the open shirt, and then the pants that are too short with the socks up high. And what about a fedora? Yeah. All right. If the players dressed up. Now, again, it's the 10-year anniversary of Michael Jackson's death in 2009.
Interesting.
And so could we have a special MJ night? The players are dressed like MJ, fedoras. They're all coming out to Michael Jackson songs. We're going to be doing the dances.
Yes.
Wearing the 1 glove. I think it would be an electric night at the
That's funny. I know you have a review from a fan of the show that we want to quickly read. But if anybody else wants to give us reviews or send text messages like this gentleman did, you can always text Jesse at 781-424-2499, or you can come on Tuesday mornings and see myself personally. You can give reviews, you can give comments, you can give suggestions, we can have coffee, whatever you want to do. Please, 1 person. I just need 1 person to come on Tuesday mornings from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. But read a little bit of this review.
Well, let me just preface this. I'm getting about 10 to 15 text messages now at all times, and actually there's a lot from the sports world.
That means we have a lot of viewers. We have 10 or 15
10 or 15 guaranteed viewers, so thank you guys. But this one came, and this was a very long text message, and I'll just kind of share a little bit of it, because he wanted some help on really direction on what he should do with the team.
Yeah.
And he wrote, my role with the team is the same as combining Jared, Barry, Patrick, Matt, Marie, Kiki, and half of Lizzie, plus adding media relations and social media. Our staff is myself, an office assistant outside of the hockey operations, and we have no budget to add anybody.
Oh, gosh.
All right? So his question was, do you have any insight as to what my single biggest focus should be? And then he finished it with his name and his title, Director of Everything.
Director of Everything.
Which the reality is, that is the way it is for sports everywhere.
It hits me right there.
We were there. I mean, I remember it was me and Emily running 2 teams at one point. Yes. We were there doing everything, and obviously you start there. Yeah. And you learn how to run the operation, but also what you love and what you should be doing. And I'm so thankful to have our team that I don't have to do that anymore. But the question in the review, I don't know if it's a review, it's just a comment. It's us giving you a shout out for Director of Everything, and we appreciate you and appreciate everyone in the sports industry who's doing it. Yeah. But to get to that point, you have to really realize, what is the story of your team? Where can you make the biggest impact? What we learned is that by becoming a cool brand, and focusing on the ticket sales and the experience. That took care of everything else. Right. Most teams are so stuck focusing on sponsorship, because they're focused on revenue. Right. We are focused on the experience. There's very few sponsorships that add to the fan experience. Right. And so we focus on that, and we were fortunate now to sell out all the games. But all I say is, what's your story? What makes you different? And go all in on that fan experience and selling tickets. Everything else will take care of itself. So great question. We appreciate the support.
If anybody else has crazy, ridiculous stories, if you work in sports or if you work in a crazy business where it's like you are director of everything, please let us know, because that is hysterical. When I was the Undercover fan, I got to see some of our staff doing a lot of different things, doing everything. And I'll quickly go through them, but it was amazing because, if you're working one of our games, you're in a mission all by yourself. And sometimes I got to make sure myself, like I've got to bring myself out of work mode and make sure I pick my head up and just smile at people. But sitting in different spots, as you mentioned, I was under the bleachers, I went up to the party deck, I went to the third base side. We got to see our staff do some ridiculous and amazing things. And when I was on the third base side, Lizzie, who's our director of merchandise, she had a birthday party going on. And so on the third base side, there's a gentleman in a wheelchair. And I saw her take an autographed baseball and go hand deliver it to this gentleman in a wheelchair. And the entire family just got so emotional. They wrapped their arms around that gentleman and they started cheering for him. And you could just see his eyes light up. And for Lizzie to be able to do that in just 5 or 10 seconds of her entire night, but for that person, it made their season. And to be able to see things like that, and then to be able to call on her, and then she got to tell that story in front of everyone at the end of the night. That was so cool. One of our interns, Brooke, I saw her all the way across the ballpark carrying this bowl of Dippin' Dots. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, something's about to happen. And she's making her way all the way across the ballpark, up the steps, and then hand delivers it to this child. And it was their birthday, or there was some sort of story behind it. But for her to hand deliver those Dippin' Dots, and we talk about that so much, like what fan first moments are you creating? What experiences are you creating for somebody? We can't do it for everybody.
Yeah.
We know it's impossible to create a million different moments for a million different people, but every single night, are we looking for that one person where we can go out of our way and say, you know what, we're about to do something really special for that. I don't know if you saw anything like that or witnessed anything like that, but for me, some of those moments were like, wow, I did not realize that all these things are happening during one ball game.
The word that comes to mind is just proud.
Yeah.
Every night after the games, we get together as a staff. It could be 11 o'clock, it could be midnight, it could be 1 in the morning.
Eating a couple raw hot dogs, there's leftover hot dogs. And
we share our fans' first moments. And we talk about, what happened, because everyone has their own experience.
Yes.
And, when we go undercover, that's the person who leads off the talk. And, I shared about 7 or 8 minutes of my impressions. And I think what I shared more than anything was how proud I was of our people.
Right.
Because while the game was exciting, we won, it was watching just our staff care so much about our fans. And it's just, help people down the stairs.
Yep.
It's grab food. It's pick up trash. It's just the little details. And when you have a culture that just cares more, it's unbelievable what you can accomplish, because caring is contagious.
Right.
And when we see our full-time staff, and Kiki, how much she cares about our 150 game day staff, and Jonathan, how much he cares about the operation, and Marie, how much she cares about everyone in the stadium club and our partners. We could go down the line.
Yeah.
Everyone cares so much, and you watch everyone else, the part-time staff, the game day staff, the interns, and what happens is the fans start caring. So you notice the fans start going that extra mile for other people, and it becomes a community that just cares. And that's really special. We talk about the craziness and the circus and the fun, but that's what it comes down to. It's just caring a little bit more. And as Undercover fans, we got to see that. And that's why our expectations are even higher now.
Yeah.
Next year, how do we take it to the next level, care even more, create even more amazing moments? And then I think it's going to be, that word of proud is going to continue to grow for all of us.
I think someone that, you mentioned earlier, but someone that cares more probably for his role than anyone in our operation is Reginald. Yes. And I was with my family that night, and my sister and her daughter and my parents were there, and my sister speaks up and goes, "Who is that guy with the trash? All I see him do is smile the entire game." And that's Reginald, and he's an all-star. He's a rock star. I told her some of the things that he had done and what we had done for him, and I started realizing that everyone in our ballpark has that same feeling about Reginald. And it's not only our staff, but all of our fans. I'm sure there's fans watching that have come to games and they know Reginald, they know how hard he works, they know his smile, they know his enthusiasm. And I started realizing we need to all be as noticeable as Reginald. You don't have to wear a yellow tuxedo. You don't have to be on a microphone. You don't have to be throwing t-shirts into the crowd. You can just be in your role, in your niche, and you can be that noticeable. He does not have a glamorous job. He is not on the field. He is not in front of people. But he has an amazing effect on people because of his attitude, because of his enthusiasm, because of his charisma, and the way he comes to work and does his job so proudly. I was blown away by just that one statement, and I thought, we all need to be as noticeable as Reginald.
And that was, you said that in your post-game recap. Yeah. The fans were moments, and it was like, how can everyone be as noticeable as Reginald, and you don't have to wear a yellow tuxedo? Yeah. And I was like, if every company builds people that care like that have a big smile, that are just taking care of other fans and making a difference, whew, And you're right. When you said that, I was like, first year, I was like, I'm blown away by your leadership because I was like, you see those things. Very few leaders see the difference that the people on the front lines can make. And you noticed about Reginald, and you gave a challenge to the whole staff. Yeah. How can we be as noticeable? And if you have 150 game day staff and 15 full-time staff and 10 interns being as noticeable because of the smile, because of how much they care for fans, because of their enthusiasm, you're creating a place that everyone wants to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I think that's the ultimate goal, is to build the community that everyone wants to be here.
Yes, that motivated me that night. If I could take away one thing from that night, that's what motivated me. On the flip side of that, the humor side. So my role every night is a lot of different things, but I'm up front, I'm greeting fans, I'm being that front person who can answer questions, point people in the right direction, and then I try to move into the seats and make sure people are being seated properly. But my one role is I have the key to the lights. And I always, at 6:55 or 7 o'clock, make sure the lights are turned on. And the lights are way out in left field. You have to go turn them on, 2 switches, and then on fireworks nights, I get to turn the lights off. And so as a fan, I cannot turn the lights on. So I had to pass those lights off to someone else. So I gave them to Daniel, and he had the keys to the lights that night. And so I get there at 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 6:45, 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30. So I'm sitting in my seats, and, in Savannah, it's obviously, we're in the South, we're on the East Coast. By 7:15, 7:30, it's still somewhat lit outside, but it's definitely getting dark. And by 7:45, it's it is getting really dark out here. And I see Daniel just working the stands, not really doing much, just taking care of his groups, going to see his people. And I'm like, he has no idea what time it is, and he has totally forgotten that he's supposed to turn the lights on tonight. So I go down, and you're on the third base side, and I go down to see you, and in my mind, our one rule was, you're not a part of group chats. Yeah. You cannot give any, you can't say anything. You cannot, be a worker that night.
Yeah, you're a fan.
About 8 o'clock, I lean over to Jesse, and I go, I got to bring this up. Daniel has forgotten to turn the lights on, and we are going to be playing in the dark. And so Jesse brings his phone out, texts the group, hey, Daniel, lights or something like that. And from the first base side of the ballpark, Daniel is in a full sprint with his intern Blake behind him. They are sprinting across the ballpark. I am losing it. They run past me, run to left field. He turns it on. He gets down on his hands and knees, and he's out of breath. And it was probably the most hilarious moment that I had seen, because he had totally forgotten to turn the lights on.
And I was with you, so I watched that. And the part I was like, why is Blake chasing after him? So Blake's following him full speed. They're like, where are we going? And just running full speed, and the lights turned on. But I'll say that with this, this is Bananas Unpeeled behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Very few people know all the details and the things that happen in a ballpark for 4,000 fans. And that's why I give it a shout out to the person who sent me a text. I mean, they're doing everything. I mean, we have a big staff, and we're still doing everything. So that was a funny moment. And I think those are the things you get to see undercover. And I think also you get a mutual respect for every other position.
Sure.
Because I'll tell you, when I was out of the show and I noticed what everyone else is doing in the show, and you just respect, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And it comes easier for some people.
Yeah. We let Jonathan, our director of food and beverage and operations, who literally is the lead person for cooking and preparing. Yes. We told him, Jonathan, you are going undercover. We are going to remove you from your position. You have got to put the right people in place. And we had interns, Trip and Trey and all them that had to pick up the slack.
Yes.
And it's you need to be so good at your job that you can train people that can do it just as good as you are, and remove yourself and be a fan for the night.
You got to build leaders. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to do. So that's a little bit of the undercover fan. Some of it, there'll be more to come. And I think maybe asking the fans.
Yes. That's our last question. I mean, if you are interested in becoming a secret undercover fan for one game, let us know. Would you like to come in and start at the beginning and go all the way to the end and take notes and give us the hard, feedback on what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like, and stay to the end with our staff, stand in front of our staff and say, hey guys, this is what happens tonight. So if you're interested in becoming an Undercover fan, let us know. Email us, text Jesse. Obviously, don't come and see me because nobody does. And let us know if you'd like to be a part of that.
And I'll say it's really important that leaders, us, it's not just us letting our people know they're doing a great job. It goes a long way when a real fan says, wow, I noticed you did this. I noticed you did that. So that means a lot to us because we get lots of these emails, these messages to us.
Yes.
But we want our people on the front line to know you made a difference. You made an impact.
Right.
So we would really appreciate love for you guys to go undercover with us this summer, have a full Bananas experience, and then share the things you love and the challenges and the things we can get better at. It would go a long way for us, our staff, and hopefully for your experience as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we know we need to get better at, and we're going to make some changes this season, and we are always focused on the best possible fan experience for every single person that comes to these games. Yeah. Myself, Jesse, Jared, thanks for watching Bananas Unpeeled. Thanks for listening. See you guys next time.